had some big breaking news yesterday.
Morning.
In a time of the NFL offseason that's normally a little bit quiet, Tristan Wirfs of the Buccaneers, we're going to start here, has a knee injury. The Eagles played the Buccaneers week 4. So is the expectation for him to be on the PUP list to start the season?
Well, I can tell you this. My guess is it'll be a wait-and-see process, that they see how he is recovering during training camp. They think he could miss, quote-unquote, a few games. Now, if he's placed on the physically unable to perform list in late August on the final roster cutdown situation, if he's placed on PUP, he's out 4 games automatically. So either they'll place him on PUP and he's out 4 games, or they won't place him on PUP, and that would tell you that they expect him back sooner than 4 games. And that's a decision that they'll have to make at that point in time when they see how he's recovering. But again, I say this, it's July 10th, he had the surgery July 8th. Like, to say already that he's going to miss a few games on July 8th, 2 months out, that sounds like a pretty significant cleanup to me. Like, if it was a meniscus, it might be 4 to 6 weeks, and you'd be saying, okay, we think he's going to be back for the start of the season. They didn't say that. So they went in there, they cleaned up some stuff that was there, found some other stuff that was there. It's not an ACL, it's not season-ending, it's not long-term, but it's enough that he's going to be a PUP candidate, and that will determine whether or not the all-pro left tackle is out there in Week 4 against the Eagles.
I got to tell you that, Adam, I'm about to lose my mind with some of my brethren here in Philly that are expecting the Eagles offense to sputter a little bit, to have some bumps in the road with a new offensive coordinator. And I'm thinking to myself, what offense in the NFL has more players returning, more star quality returning, and is the Super Bowl champs coming back? I'm not accepting that there should be a stumble period, a struggle bust period, or anything, because I'm looking at that first month of the schedule. Cowboys and the Rams at home, Chiefs and the Bucks on the road, and saying the offense is going to have to cover for a defense that has a lot of new faces on it.
Yeah, look, I just think they're a good team. When you've got an offense like that, the offensive line is so strong. There are so many weapons. I don't know why there would be a follow-up. And even though there are new faces on the defensive side of the football, I still think it's going to be a strong, tough defense. Like, what are they? I know they lost some parts. You lose Milton Williams. You lose Montez Sweat. You lose some of these guys. Josh Sweat, excuse me, that's going to make a difference. But they got a lot of talent on that side of the football, a lot. And so it may take a little bit of time for it to come together, but it still should be a very good defense in my mind.
Now, speaking of the offense that Johnny brought up there was a debate that we played from one of your coworkers at ESPN. Chris Canty was talking a little bit about the Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts comparison that seems to have popped up a bunch this offseason. To you, Adam, at this point, with Jaden Daniels only having played 1 year of his NFL career, is it fair to talk about those guys and compare them, or is it an easy pick to go Hurts over Daniels?
Well, first of all, I haven't heard any of this talk comparing and contrasting Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels throughout the offseason. I don't know where it was about. I don't know what the genesis of it was, and I don't know what the conclusion is. I just view it as two different quarterbacks. You know, Jalen Hurts is a guy that's won the Super Bowl, a guy that has made his mark, a guy that's gotten paid, a guy that you know you can count on. You know, Jaden Daniels, to me, he's the future. He just is. And Jalen Hurts already has accomplished so much, you know, with 2 NFC championships and 1 Super Bowl ring, that I'm not comparing anybody to him. But I will say that when you're looking at this league right now, you know, if you could pick one guy for the future, it might just be Jaden Daniels. It might be him right now. That's how impressive he is. And I don't mean just talent. Like, the way he handles himself and the regard that other players have for him. Again, he still has to go and accomplish everything that Jalen Hurts has, and he hasn't. So we're still a little premature, but I think anybody who sees Washington can easily say, like, this guy is the real deal. Real deal.
I was looking at the reaction to your social media post yesterday when you put up Washington's new throwback uniforms. When they threw back to the uniforms, my problem is the Commanders never wore those uniforms. The Washington Redskins did. And overwhelmingly on your comments, the fans were like, yeah, really nice unis. Give us back our team name. I wonder, has there ever been any discussion within ownership circles or otherwise of going back to the team name that it seems overwhelmingly, and they've even done fan surveys and media surveys in the market, the fans want that.
Yeah, I don't think that they've considered going back to Redskins. I don't think that that's going. I know that they've pondered a name change, and the last I heard was that they thought it was just too many name changes. Redskins, Washington football team, Commanders didn't want to change it again, and so that's where they're at now. I don't know. Maybe they'll change that and have a new stadium coming, have to name the stadium maybe, and all that stuff like that. But I haven't heard them considering going back to the Redskins, despite the fact that those uniforms yesterday sure look like the uniforms that the Redskins wore back in the day.
They did.
We're talking to Adam Schefter of ESPN on the Comcast Business Hotline. Now, Adam, we're 2 weeks or under 2 weeks to training camp. I wonder, is there an NFC team out there that you see as a potential contender that not enough people are talking about?
We've written down a team name, both of us, and we're wondering if you're going to say either one of the teams that we've written down.
I think the team that people haven't talked about enough, team that hasn't garnered enough attention, a team that is better than people think, a team that I would actually put in the elite of the NFC teams that nobody's talked about. People talk about San Francisco still, and you know they have to get back, and I don't see that right now. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think, are an underrated team, despite the Tristan Wirfs injury that we opened this segment with, that people aren't talking about. What did you write down? Which are the two teams that you guys write down?
I said Arizona.
And I said San Francisco.
Because I said nobody's talking about. I do agree with you, though. I find my old college classmate coaching those Todd Bowles, coaching those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, very dangerous. And the way that they've owned the Eagles, they've sort of knocked the Eagles around quite a bit.
I'm telling you, they're a really good football team. Really good. And they are loaded on offense. And, you know, Baker Mayfield has led a resurgence, and he's been really good and strong. And so I don't know that. You know who has the most touchdown passes in the NFL the last 2 years? Talking about great quarterbacks.
Baker.
That's right. And, by the way, they added to that with Emeka Egbuka, the first round, who I was told has looked unbelievable during camp. So now you take Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they're going to get back from injury, Jalen McMillan. I was watching NFL Live a couple of days ago, Mina Kimes on there. They were talking about the top 10 running backs, and they said, who is not here? And I'm just telling you what Mina Kimes said. She goes, there's a guy here that you didn't mention that when you watch the tape from week 10 on last year was the best running back in football. That was Bucky Irving, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, he is a monster. He had a great latter half of that year. Now, Shefty, I'm not sure if you've caught up on the latest season of Quarterback on Netflix, but there's something interesting I want your perspective.
I've watched the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
Not the full. Yep, first 2. I'm 2 episodes in.
Love that. I know you're a busy guy, so I'm sure you'll catch up. But the Kirk Cousins story about Atlanta potentially misleading him with the drafting of Michael Penix and him not realizing they were going to do that. Is that something that happens in the NFL? Is that bad practice by the Falcons? What's your take on that situation?
My take on that situation is usually when teams are drafting a quarterback or planning to draft a quarterback, they don't surprise their quarterback. And also, they certainly don't surprise their quarterback in an off-season where they just gave him $100 million guaranteed money. So that's what made that one unusual, and it wasn't usual. is that they just paid this guy. They just opted for this guy. I think they might have called him like while they were on the clock or something like that. Like, I'll just go back to Patrick Mahomes. When the Chiefs were drafting him, they had Alex Smith, who was a pretty good quarterback at that point in time. And the Chiefs were calling Alex Smith all along, letting them know, we got this guy that we love. And, we're going to do everything we can to get this guy. We don't want to surprise you. But this is the guy we're targeting in the draft. And they took him. And by the way, like, the Saints used to do the same thing with Drew Brees. If there was a guy, like, teams have done this. So, I think the way that Atlanta handled it was a little bit different than the way other teams have handled it. Everybody does it the way they want, but that's how Atlanta decided. And, Kirk Cousins is a pretty smart, genuine, authentic guy. And if he says he feels misled, then he was misled in his mind.
Doesn't surprise me from my 2 decades down there, Adam, that the Falcons sometimes falcon themselves. It's what they do.
Well, again, like I said, I don't think that's the way most teams would have done it, but that's the way they did it.
Yes, it is. Well, we'll get more news as we draw closer to training camp, and we appreciate the time as always, Shefty.
Thanks.